First of all, welcome to the Geography Getting Started session. I'm really happy you came along, and I want to welcome you again to the School of Geography, Earth Sciences and Atmospheric Sciences. So thanks to Anna Marie, who has already run us through, well, I guess what to expect from the majors of Earth Sciences and Atmospheric Sciences, how to get started. But as you may see now, since actually just a few months, we are all Earth scientists, atmospheric scientists merged together with us geographers. So we're all under the same roof, and I think that's in many ways a great thing. It brings us even closer together. And therefore, I'm happy that I can follow up on Anna Marie's presentation to run you through geography and how to get started into the major of geography in the Bachelor of Science. And before anything else, I should introduce myself. My name is Henne May, or Jan Hendrik May, officially and formally. I'm the course coordinator for the Bachelor of Science with a major in geography. You can check out my email here, and you can always get in touch if you have questions that you want to discuss, if you have doubts. I'm, I think, a very open person, and I like communication, so don't worry, get in touch with me as well. So I am not only a geographer, I'm also a physical geographer. And for those of you guys that probably so far do not know that much about geography, let's use the occasion and also go a little bit into detail before we get started on the formalities on what geography actually is that you can expect to study here with us at Uni Melbourne. So for the one part, you could check out our webpage, and you can check out what everyone, all the staff members that we have in geography, what we're actually doing for a living, what our research is about. And you'll probably very quickly find that there is a huge, like I really want to emphasize this, a huge range of things that people are interested in, and people, what people research and contribute, I guess, to our knowledge and society. Ranges from people like myself that work with landscapes all the way to colleagues that work with social aspects and psychological aspects, even medical aspects of human life. So I guess it's fair to say that geography is a discipline, a scientific discipline, that is very, very strongly multidisciplinary. And it focuses therefore not only on really one aspect, but on many. It focuses on, it studies landscapes and people, and then mainly the way these two interact. And therefore, I've also provided here a little example. You may remember from a year and a half ago, all these troubles and problems that we had in Australia here with fires. And of course, the discussion evolved around the physical aspects with weather and climate, and maybe climate change contributing to the frequency of these events, but at the same time, to how much, I guess, humans were involved, not only as victims, but also as triggers and causes for these fire events, and that over various timescales. So I think there's, this is a very good example, I think, of what geography can do and can contribute to the understanding of our planet and us living on it. Being an interdisciplinary science, I think, again, it's fair to say that geography is situated between a whole range of physical sciences and sciences in general, be it biology, chemistry, earth science, but also things like IT, math, statistics, physics, all these that you can actually find here in a neighboring kind of way here at University of Melbourne as well. And the same is true towards the more social side of things. Here's an example. Of course, psychology and other social disciplines also have a lot to do with geography, and we are, as geographers, sitting right between these. And when you look a little bit closer, then you'll also find that geography is, in a way, subdivided, if you will. While there is a lot of overlap, there are two main streams in geography. The human geography part, that deals with more cultural, society aspects, also into economy and political issues and health, if you will. And then on the other side, the physical geography, which comes much closer to what Anna Marie has presented and what we would say or summarize as earth sciences. So that's the atmosphere, the geosphere, hydrosphere, and all these things as well. So both of those in many ways belong together and are essentially about solving environmental problems. So problems that have to do with our presence on the planet and the use of resources to, well, maintain us. And to reflect, I think, these two main streams of geography, very interestingly, maybe one of the very few discipline areas in the university, we offer a major of geography in both the Bachelor of Science and the Bachelor of Arts. So I think keep that in mind, because they both, while being geography, reflect slightly different interests and maybe focus areas, but are very closely interlinked. We're now going to talk more about the major in geography in the Bachelor of Science, which you can see is, well, a lot of things, but then in the third year level requires you to complete 50 points, meaning 4 subjects, and in addition, a field class subject. So we'll talk about those in a bit. For those of you interested, check out more information, of course, in the handbook. It's all nicely summarized there for your convenience. So in the Bachelor of Science, studying geography will in some ways reflect things that Anna-Marie has already talked about and that are very closely related to Earth sciences, things like the Earth's surface, things like the atmosphere, climate and weather, for example, and also the marine realm, our oceans and coasts. But I think to highlight the difference, geography, maybe much more so than other disciplines, looks at the interactions and relationships between these sub-disciplines, and probably also, very importantly, also looks at the relationship between all of those and human society on all levels. So keep that in mind. That's really what I think you can expect to think about and learn about if you decide for the Bachelor of Science with the major in geography. And then what you can also expect is a fair bit of fieldwork and learning field-related techniques. Here's a range of things that students are involved in the various subjects, and then later on potentially in student-led research areas as well. It's covering the whole range of environments, from high mountains to the coasts, even into the subsurface. All of that is covered also by geography. And those skills, of course, of navigating in the countryside and taking samples for specific questions, environmental questions, all that are very important and crucial now for a range of applications later on. And fair to say also that this is not just ending in the field, it's really where it's starting. It's where we gather the data, that sets that we need, where we take samples, and of course the samples will be then processed further on in the various laboratories, which again is part of our education in the 3.5 years that you run through the bachelor program. Here you will also learn a lot of lab techniques to answer specific questions. I say specific questions, those of course vary, and to reflect the broad range of questions and topics, also the multidisciplinary character I think we have in geography, we have thought of mainly 8 different pathways that we're offering within that major. So that for you are kind of pre-thought ways of how to align the various subjects that we're offering into maybe a more streamlined and maybe more sensible way that ends up focusing or concentrating on one of these more specific subject areas, like Earth surface processes. That's where I work in. I'm interested in how the Earth surface and landscapes shape. And health geography, for example, is a very big one that nowadays more than ever links physical sciences, medical sciences, and society. So a very typical example for geography. And again, you can see water being one of those topic or pathway areas that you can also specialize in. Again, I invite you to check out some of these pathways. I'm sorry. On the webpage, you can learn more what's offered. But I think they speak for themselves. And while those 3 that are blended out here a little bit are maybe more inclined towards the Bachelor of Arts, the remaining ones are clearly part of the Bachelor of Science major in geography, and allow you to, well, choose one of those pathways depending on your interest. On the webpage that introduced to these pathways, you can already see, you can check, maybe based on your interests and interest areas that you've come out of high school with or so, what pathways might be most appropriate to reflect your interests. I can recommend that little test here. You can select keywords, as you can see here, and then you'll be suggested one or the other pathway. But you can also, of course, choose the pathways based on your career plans. Maybe you already have an idea of what you want to become. And as a geographer with a bachelor in geography, you will be suitable for an incredibly wide range of jobs. So you might ask yourself that if you become a geographer, then what will I actually end up in terms of job position? And when you look at what geographers out of Melbourne, but also in general, have actually become, then here's a few examples where they ended up. You'll be blown away, hopefully, at least I am, by the diversity of jobs you can fit in and that you can contribute to as a geographer. Of course, on top of all those that you can see here that are addressing environmental problems, consultancy, town planners, then commercial surveyors, cartographers, tourism officers. On top of that, you could also end up in science, like myself. You could end up as an academic researcher or educator. You can end up a teacher, a high school teacher, which would, at least in my perspective, also be a very and rewarding path. So with that in mind, again, you can choose pathways into your first year of geography. Here's a few examples what that means. So if you decided for a pathway of water, you wanted to basically study geography of water, then we have collated for you a recommended sequence of first, second, and third year subjects that you can see listed here, and you can already, from the quick look at this, appreciate the diversity of topics that will be then covered. Of course, also leading to a wide range in skills that you will come out of this bachelor with. And here's another example that we call health geography, that has only really been around for a few years. Very interesting and exciting, I guess, topic, connecting between medical sciences, society, and physical sciences, so or physical geography. So keep those in mind and be curious and check them out a little bit. For all of those geography pathways in third year, but also earlier on, we have, I personally think, quite exciting field trips. For second year subjects, there's a range of field trips within Victoria that I can highlight to various parts. We don't really have time to go into detail, but then as we are interested in our global existence on the planet, of course, some of the field trips in third year are also going to international locations. I should say that's obviously provided that COVID will allow us to go back to these international destinations. To highlight some of those that in the last few years were visited by third year groups and subjects. There is one that goes to East Timor. There's another one that has gone to New Zealand. There was for a long time a class that went to China, looking at, of course, the integration of physical and human aspects. Now we also offer a few domestic, so national-based third year field-oriented subjects. For example, one that will kick in next year that will go into the Central Australian arid zones or drylands. I will be involved into that one if you're interested, and there's a few others, one that goes to Tasmania, looks at the biogeography of Tasmania, and so on and so forth. Of course, there's a dynamic flow and offer, but all of those are highly interesting and exciting for geography students, I believe. So don't forget about the field trips. They are part of the experience, not only in an academic, but also in a personal sense, and connect you with the world. So what to expect if you decided to study geography, then this is possibly how it looks like. You want to start at year one, and there's a few things, a few credit points that of course you need to start collecting. Anna-Marie has run you through a few of those subjects that you could choose for many or most of those geography pathways as well. the global environment, or then the understanding planet Earth are among them. Can highly recommend them. I'm partly teaching into the global environment, so might see one of the other of you guys in semester 1 there. And then we have one very central subject that I definitely want to mention and also want to highlight here, which is called famine, the geography of scarcity. And that is one of those geography first year subjects that is mandatory and necessary. I think there's almost no way around this, but it's a fantastic subject. It might have maybe at first sight a bit of a strange name, but let's have a quick look at famine, the geography of scarcity. So that gives you a better idea what we're talking about. We're talking about the availability, the presence, the type of resources that human life actually needs, requires, uses up. And we then talk about all these implications of resources and use for things like famine, famine being the central topic and maybe the central problem that we think about in a geographic perspective in this subject. What this means is that this subject is, again, a highly interdisciplinary one. It's not only from a human perspective, it's not only from a physical perspective. It provides students with a really broad range of knowledge into all these perspectives, and also provides analytical tools. So you learn techniques and tools throughout the semester, from GIS to literature reviews to a range of maybe more number-oriented skills that are also going to be important, software. And that will be the perfect moment, I think, to introduce you guys to all these skills. So in the end, you come out of this with multiple disciplinary knowledges and practices. This subject, you can read that here, it draws together in the best fashion natural and social science. And when you look through here on the right-hand side, the topics that we're covering throughout the semester in famine, hopefully you'll see what I mean with interdisciplinary, multiple disciplinary topic areas around this ever-growing problem and issue that we have on Earth with not being able to nourish people. So we're asking what that means, what famines are and where they come from. Is it too many people, or is it too little food, or none of those problems? And we introduced to things like carrying capacity that are important to understand planet Earth in general. And we look into the past, into collapsing societies, into potential future and ongoing solutions like the Green Revolution, and into geographical examples. We look into China, for example, how people or Chinese have dealt and are dealing with famine. Then there's a lot on political economy, a rising and really interesting sub-discipline in geography. We look into local solutions, what can be done. We look into the future, and we'll obviously look into other related conflicts and issues like war, and how that has to do, of course, with our society and famine. So a pretty exciting array, I think, of topics that you will learn about. And almost last thing, you'll also see that there's 24 contact hours that are subdivided into 12 times 2-hour lectures. That sounds like a lot, but what we actually do is that we chop them up into digestible bits and pieces. So it's been working really well, particularly in these last 2 years, in which we basically had to give things online. Last year, we had to give them online, which may or may not also be the case for next year. Minimum similar to what Anna-Marie presented for Earth Sciences, will have things available dual. It all depends on lockdown and restriction situations. As you can see, there's mainly 2 lecturers, Dr. Dressler and Dr. May, second one being myself, and I represent the physical geography in this subject, while my colleague, Professor or Associate Professor Dr. Dressler, is the course coordinator. Very nice guy. He represents more maybe the human geography side of things, but you can always get in touch with him. Do that if you have questions, if you want to know a little bit more about famine. And otherwise, I guess I can only recommend taking it, because this subject, if any, tackles I personally think that the big issues that we have and will have in the next few decades here on Earth. So that's words, I know, but this is what geography is all about. Actually trying to understand and hopefully solve many of these problems that we're facing. And you, as maybe beginning first years, will of course also have logistical problems that you will be facing. And maybe if you don't always want to get in touch with Stop One or all these formal official points at university, I can also recommend that you get in touch with other students, because there are things like the Melbourne University's Geographical Society. Here's a link that are a bunch of very nice people, geographers, geography students, a little bit more in a formalized fashion, and I'm very sure they'll be able to help you and also answer a range of questions. And if not, then they're definitely fun to hang out with and maybe associate yourself with these kind of guys. So that's pretty much it. If you have questions, then ask me now or send me emails. You have my email from this presentation. I'm very happy to get back in touch with you, no problem at all. And